So the Elizabeth Holmes trial came out with a verdict, and it was a mixed bag. So I don't know how many people were surprised about that, not surprised about that, but she's guilty. Well, I think the way in which it was a mixed bag is maybe a little bit less surprising for a lot of people, because as for fraud against investors, she was found guilty on pretty much all of the counts. It sounds like fraud against patients, not so much, and then a few no verdicts. So which will probably be declared a mistrial by the judge. So do you guys have any thoughts? Oh, it did. It was declared a mistrial.
Yeah, with respect to those counts, yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. So what are your guys' thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, Elizabeth Holmes, for those of you who may not remember, was the founder and CEO of Theranos, which was purported to be a revolutionary biomedical company. Elizabeth Holmes was shilling that she and her company had developed new blood testing machines, which could use very small amounts of blood in the nature of drops to detect a whole panoply of diseases cheaper, faster, and more reliably than any of their competition. She started this company when she was 19. So she's a 19-year-old with no particular education or background or history, because, 19, but she can somehow develop a biomedical machine that's going to faster, cheaper, more reliably, and with less blood detect all the things that you can literally, this was literally an advertising campaign for a little bit. Literally, you can go to your CVS and just, prick your finger on the blood, and they will tell you, all the cancers and stuff you have. So basically, it is just literal snake oil. It's step right up. It's Elizabeth Holmes' magic elixir time. You, sir, you look like you need the magic elixir. Let me tell you about the magic elixir. It's just that. So anyways, yeah, she was found guilty of, as you say, of charges related. Conspiracy to defraud, and then 3 specific underlying counts of wire fraud that were later in time. The no verdict case, the no verdicts were earlier in time. So she was being charged for various offenses, I think from 2010 to 2015. The no verdict ones were like 2013. 2015. So 2010 to 2015. So the no verdict ones were in 2013. The guilty ones were later in 2015. So it seems to be what I did on my channel is I'm trying to analyze this. It's like, how do you square all this logically, right? Because there's ways to square it not logically, right? Compromise verdicts and, whatever. So, but how do you square it logically? And I'm like, okay, well, the way to square that logically is that, she really believed what she was saying, and she didn't defraud at the beginning, and she was just overly optimistic and overly ambitious, but it didn't really amount to fraud. But at some point along the way, and we're not sure where,
things got out of hand.
Because there's the no verdict thing, right? We're not sure exactly where, but some point along the way, she knew she was defrauding, and she knew she was misrepresenting it. No longer was whatever. So we weren't sure at that point at 2013, but we're sure at 2015. I'm like, okay, I can buy that. And then with respect to the patient stuff, the way to square that logically is that perhaps it's just too attenuated. There's intermediate steps. There's too many intermediaries for the nature of the communications to the patients. So she's too proximately removed, if we want to use a legal term. She's too proximately removed from it to work. So these are potential ways to square this verdict. The other thing, now there's a question as to how much time she's facing. What I can tell you is that 3 of the counts are 20 years and 1 of the counts is 5 years. Now, I saw one guy's numbers online where he walked through the code and tried to square it. And according to his numbers, which look superficially right, but I am in no way saying are correct, but they look superficially plausible. He came up with the idea that they would be consecutive because of the nature of the various offenses, and based on the category, when you total up all the points for things, you could actually get to a life sentence. So obviously 65 years is less than life. You can't do more than the statute, so 65. Crime Talk has said there's a max of 20 years and maybe less than that. So there's going to be obviously a massive dispute, as I'm sure we can all appreciate. 6?
You think 6 years?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
there's a massive dispute
because you're
over
right.
these things, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean,
go on, Mark.
those calculations are totally right. It's just taking into account taking into account her status, her like wunderkind kind of, aura that she has, and also probably a judge not. One of the big things about this trial, right, is that you're kind of putting Silicon Valley on trial a little bit, because the counts that she was basically not found guilty for the most part, was all Silicon Valley blusterers and venture capitalists do, right? And so in a lot of ways, what people are going to try and use this is to read the tea leaves on where and when you have to actually start being more open with
I'll tell you what, if I'm a judge, I'm putting her up against the wall for kind of exactly that reason, because it's like, well, Silicon Valley, maybe you've been pushing that boundary a little bit too much, and she went well over the boundary. So one of the things that we remember from law school, perhaps, is what is the point of punishment? Why do we punish people, right? And there's various theories as to why you do that, right? Mm-hmm. You're trying to isolate this person. You're trying to do retribution. You're trying to do various things. But one of the reasons we punish people is what we call general deterrence. We're trying to deter people in general from committing crimes. We're punishing you as an example to others, right? So yeah, maybe Silicon Valley needs to be whacked over the head a little bit. Also, not to put too fine a point on it, but she defrauded people out of millions of dollars. She was convicted of 140 million. More realistically, it's more like $1 billion of defraud. And
because that was how much they raised, right?
That's a lot of fraud. So judge on civil law is ready to nail her to the wall.
Well, and look, I agree with most of your assessment, and I feel that way for the most part. It's just that, I don't see people, stockholders in the SEC and those sort of SDNY cases nailing those people to the wall when they defraud people of 200 million and 300
and
million.
And isn't it about time someone did? Please make me a federal judge. I'd be the very best federal judge. I just like to point out that I'm available. And if you appoint me like right now and confirm me right now, and with a little bit of doodads behind the scenes, I can be the sentencing judge. I'll be the best sentencing judge. It'll be great.
Yeah, I mean, look, and that appeal that you did would certainly work on some, on certain, on like potential.
It'll be great because the United States say, "Why do you want to be a federal judge?" And my answer will be, "I want to whack Elizabeth Holmes over the head with the hammer of justice so hard that it makes everyone else's head hurt." How about that for an answer?